Hello and welcome to 3 Minute Gaming. I'm Nathan, and today I'm going to tell you if this game's worth your time and bandwidth. Today's game is Ikai, an Amnesia-style horror game set in Japan and made by Spanish devs. Is this yokai-filled horror romp worth getting spooked? Let's find out. Ikai is a first-person horror game that draws a lot of inspiration from the Amnesia games, being that it's slower paced, has a focus on its atmosphere, and you have to use analog sticks to open doors. You play as Naoko, a shrine priestess tasked with protecting the shrine from evil spirits and yokai while her uncle is out. And as luck would have it, she touches a cursed knife while doing laundry, and all the yokai show up at the shrine. There's 4 in particular that need exorcising, and you'd best get to it. The primary goal of each scenario is to find a cursed object, then write a seal to slap on said cursed object to get rid of that yokai. Each scenario mixes things up, however. As the first one, you'll have to actually find your pen and ink to make the seal. The second one, the yokai roams around trying to find you. The third seals off pathways with spider webs and small puzzles, and so on. What you'll be generally doing is wandering around trying to find where to go next, while not getting too spooked. The shrine is the only real location, though there's a small forest outside you visit twice, as well as an underground maze, which we will get to. Regardless, you'll learn the shrine's hallways well as you try to find whatever the current objective requires. It's also filled to the brim with collectibles, so there's that too. Once you find that cursed object, you have to write the seal to get rid of it, and this is easily the best part of the game. You have a limited number of tables you can trace the seal on manually, and while tracing, the yokai will try and find you. So you have to listen for it approaching, and should you hear it, quickly pause your drawing and run off to a different table. It's actually pretty suspenseful and works well with the tracing mechanic. Aside from that, you'll be doing a range of puzzles, from sliding puzzles, some environment stuff, and 2 mazes that are just, like I said, we'll get to it. There isn't a ton regardless, as you've probably seen by this game's short runtime. And yeah, that's pretty much Ikai. Japanese Amnesia with a unique seal writing mechanic and a story that just, well, let's get to the pros and cons where I can elaborate. So what did I like about Ikai? Well, as mentioned, the part where you trace the seals, but have to listen carefully to make sure the yokai doesn't grab you, is really suspenseful, as you try to balance drawing really quickly while not screwing it up with, not getting eaten. I also did like the blends of Japanese mythology and horror, with the game doing a good job of fusing those 2 ideas, while giving a lot of background on the yokai and having some okay art direction. And lastly, the third yokai is genuinely creepy. Probably the best one in the game, this spider doll, as she webs up portions and has a very horrific design. It's kind of unfortunate that her segment is really short, because that's easily the highlight. When it comes to the bad, this has the one big horror game flaw. It is not scary, it is instead very boring. Yokai generally only show up during scripted segments, making most of the games just wandering around without anything scary happening. Additionally, the puzzles range from okay to trial and error bad. There's not 1 but 2 mazes in the game that are solved by random guesswork, and while most puzzles are easy, there are a few fiendishly difficult ones for no apparent reason, one of them being the very first gate puzzle, and they kill the pacing. And lastly, the story here is also very bad, and it's mostly due to its abysmal translation. Both English and Japanese voice actors seem more bored than scared most of the time, and as mentioned, the translation itself is butchered to the point of making the already thin plot indecipherable. As you know, I rate games here on a 3-point scale, must play, maybe consider, and don't bother. And I will say I do like Ikai's concept, a short horror game set in one location that evolves as new yokai show up to mess things up. But in the execution, it falls completely on its face. Bland puzzles, poor signposting, a terrible translation, and lack of any real scares make the whole thing a slog, even at under 2 hours long. I came away very disappointed, and I absolutely do not recommend it. And that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. Have you heard of Ikai? If you're itching for this kind of horror game, Amnesia the Bunker just came out and it's fantastic, so I definitely recommend that over this, but I want to know what you think in the comments, so please let me know, and regardless, go out there and avoid Ikai.